This work was originally developed by a man named David Cantor, who was a family therapist. And he started to observe how people were talking when they were in families. And then he realized that the same thing was true in organizations, that there were 4 basic things people can do when they're in a group conversation. Okay? The first thing you can do in a group conversation is you can initiate. You can say, let's take a vacation in Florida. That's an initiation. Let's do something. Then someone else in the group can follow. That's a good idea. Let's go to Florida. That's a follow. Okay? Very important move. Then someone else could say, oh, I hate going to Florida. Let's go somewhere else. Right? And then very interesting what he watched was in every group, there's also somebody who's just watching. Now, the person who's not initiating, following, or opposing is not doing nothing. They're in the conversation. And that's why I know that people, even when they're quiet in class, are in the conversation. They might not be doing one of these things, okay? So every one of these moves is important for a team. And by the way, these are not personality types. These are just different ways you can have a conversation, engage in the conversation. All right, so everything has a plus. So when someone initiates, what do you get when someone initiates? Just call it out.
Direction.
You get direction. Someone initiates and you get a direction. All right, now, here's a really interesting thing. When someone follows, what do you get?
Support.
You get support, but you get something very specific, occurs. Action. Following is it? I love following because someone gives a good idea, I say, let's do that. Then you actually have action. Something occurs. So that's a positive aspect of following. What is the positive aspect of opposing? Yes.
It gives you a different perspective.
Yes, it gives you perspective. That's what critical thought is. We say, I know, but you haven't thought of something. So you can do, opposing can be a very important thing to do in a group. And what is the value of bystanding? Think about that. Some of you tend to be bystanders. But yes.
It gives you time.
Say that again?
It gives you time.
It gives you time when you watch. Okay, but what is the person by doing that? What are they providing?
Oh, I was just going to say you're observing everything.
Yes, you actually, a bystander can give an observation. By the way, you two keep disagreeing. Have you noticed that? And we're not getting anywhere because you keep fighting. The observer is an important role in the group. That's the one who actually sees more of the dynamic than anyone else. Okay? Like, I tend to initiate. I don't tend to bystand when I'm in a group. So I often don't know what's going on because I'm so busy interacting, I can't watch the whole system. And so what I do is, if someone's bystanding, I'll ask them, what do you see going on? What do you see happening here? Okay? All right. Now, each of these also has a negative thing if it's done too much. What happens when someone initiates too much in a group? We've all been in that group, that someone's doing all the initiating. What's the downside of that?
Last perspective, you're all going in one person's direction.
Yes, it's one direction, and well, I'll actually call it something not nice, domination. You know, we've been in groups where one person is dominating. Like it's their view, and nobody's speaking up because there's too much of it going on. What happens when there's too much following in a group? Any thoughts?
Inaction.
Well, it's inaction, but it's like passivity. If everybody's just, okay, going along. Now, oftentimes when you're in a group where there's someone in authority says, let's do this, the whole group says, okay, yes. You know, because the person's in authority and they go along with them. So sometimes there's too much passivity. Oh, when there's too much opposing, what happens in a group?
Conflict.
It's conflict. I was once watched a team. There were 4 doctors, and they just did the whole team just arguing with each other. They just opposed. What happens when there's too much bystanding? What you can do it in a way of you can provide observation, but when it doesn't work, you withdraw. A bystander withdraws. Do you know what I'm saying? They're not really participating at all. You want to have So for each of these moves, you want to do it in a positive way, a way that provides direction, action, especially when you oppose. You want to do it very well so you get perspective that other people appreciate. Sometimes people don't understand why you're opposing, why you have a different point of view. So you have to help them. And you have to bystand effectively. At certain moments, you have to say, this is what I see. You don't just see it. Share it, what you see. Okay? So those are the 4 moves. So in a minute, I'm going to ask your teams to get into your team, and I'm actually going to appoint an observer in each team. And the observer's role is to watch the conversation and just take notes on how it's going, what kind of moves you see. So the observer will take notes on what they see happening. And the rest of you just forget about the whole thing and just work on the question, okay? So the question's going to be, what's the most important thing our team needs to do now? The most important thing our team needs to do, like next, like the very next thing we need to do is, that's the conversation.